College football playoff semifinal. We're looking at crowning national champion in 2023. OwnersBox crew here to get you ready with a preview, starting with TCU and Michigan. Avery, much like last year, this one's probably the big spread. This one's the one that I think a lot of people are maybe overlooking. And it could be just like Cincinnati and Alabama was, where it's just a bit of an easy handled game for the favorite. Michigan, 7.5-point favorite. Total set at 58.5. Initial impressions, does TCU have a good look here?
So, I mean, let's look at the last games of the season for both of these teams, right? Michigan dog walks Purdue, and then TCU loses to K-State. On the surface, it's like, hey, Michigan's going to roll these guys, and TCU's just not got a chance, right? And the numbers kind of say that as well. Mm-hmm. So you need to think of this from a different view, and we'll dive into the numbers and give you that. But on the surface, it doesn't seem like TCU really has that much of a chance. The spread says something a little bit different, and then you still got to play the ball game, right? Yeah,
if you're betting on this game and you pay attention to line movement and think that brings value into what the big pocket bettors are looking at. I mean, Michigan opened as high as 10, most books 9.5, down to 7.5. Total opened at around 60.5. Some books at 60, down to 58.5. So it seems like the people that got on this game early were back in TCU. We're back in the under, and you look at the percentages, Michigan getting about 70% of bets, the over getting about 61% of bets, 75% of money. That was about a week ago from our friends over at BetMGM. By the way, if you're looking to bet on this game, sign up at BetMGM. They're going to give you $100 or $1,000 risk-free first bet. We'll have that link down below in the description to sign up. Let's start. I want to start Michigan offensively because I think the question and the major question here as to whether or not TCU has a chance is being able to stop the run. That's Michigan's game. They run the ball a ton. We saw Ohio State sell out to stop it. Paid the price when they missed a few tackles. So I wanted to look at starting with, you look at the 5 matchups that TCU had earlier this season that were against teams that ran the ball at a similar rate or close to a similar rate to Michigan. You look at Kansas, Kansas State, Texas, Baylor, and then you mentioned K-State to close things out in the Big 12 championship game. They allowed 162 yards per game. A couple of these teams really were able to run it on them, most notably Baylor and K-State. But these teams ran it a ton. They actually only allowed 4.6 yards per carry. And if you go to the recipe, in my mind, like that Texas game, they allowed 29 rushing yards in that game. Like they can find a way to stop the run. This is a different animal, though. I'm sure you know that from the numbers of Michigan offensively and on the offensive line.
So we look at what Michigan does well, and then you just see how often they run the ball. 62% of the plays is Michigan rushing the ball. And okay, Blake Corum's done. People were talking about, hey, let's get this guy in the Heisman conversation, Blake Corum. And then Donovan Edwards just, what did we talk about? 22 carries for 216 yards against Ohio State.
Yeah.
25 carries for 185 yards against Purdue. Again, maybe as a hater, as an Ohio State guy, it's like, this offensive line is so good.
Yeah.
You could put me back there and I'd run for 100 yards. But that's just so impressive for this Michigan front. They're going to, you look at what happened last year against Georgia when they played them, bully ball.
Yes.
Just bullied at the line. And I was saying to you before this, Michigan's now the favorite. This is a different thing where Georgia's like, hey, we're going to flex our muscles a little bit on you and shove it down your throat.
Yeah.
I think this is what Michigan's going to do this the same way that happened kind of last year. 5.6 yards per rush, 4th best in the country. 43 times they're rushing a ball a game for almost 250 yards.
Yeah.
And we saw it against Ohio State as well. You sell out for it. They're going to be able to make the throws this year. It's not Cade making the throws anymore. JJ was able to show out and do his thing against Ohio State because Purdue's not the same beast as Ohio State is, and that big of a game. So I think they'll be able to find ways. Again, I said Jim Harbaugh's he's not crazy anymore. He knows how they can win the games, and it's running the ball, it's shoving it down your throat, and if you have to make the throw, they were leading the completion percentage thing for a lot of this year. They're 26th now, but they were like 75% completing passes.
That's what happens when you can run the ball as well as they can.
Exactly.
Right? It opens things up for the receivers, and they have talented ones too at Michigan. Like there's a lot of talent there with Ronnie Bell, Donovan Wilson. I think the big question mark and the way that TCU makes plays is we look at that early game Ohio State recipe. Like their linebackers played well early in the game and things broke down late. That's what happens when a team runs the ball 40 fucking times and you like, it is tough to stay disciplined, stay with your assignments and not miss tackles. So for TCU, they got some veterans in the linebacker core. This entire defense is experienced, like a lot of upperclassmen. Can the linebackers make enough plays at the line of scrimmage, and can they limit the explosive ones? We saw that was the reason Michigan, that final score was so big in separation, was because they didn't limit some of those explosive plays that came at the end of the game. So it's the linebackers, and then the DBs have to be able to play one-on-one in that situation where everybody's stopping, looking to sell out to stop the run. They have like a pretty good secondary. Trevius Hodges-Tomlinson, he's supposed to be like a day 2 pick, is their leader in the secondary. They're actually pretty good against the pass, like 9th in opponent completion percentage at 54%, 47th in yards per attempt, allowing 6.9. I think they can stay in this game, but there's a difference between staying in this game and winning this game for TCU. So.
Yeah, and you see Michigan, if there's flaws on this team, and I don't really see it. They don't turn the ball over a lot.
Yeah.
They don't really take penalties. 9th least penalties per play on offense, 7th least penalties per game. Like 4 penalties on offense a game. That's very good. This is a disciplined bunch.
Yeah. Well coached. Jim Harbaugh doing a good job.
Yeah, as much as I want to say they're not well coached, this is a well coached team and a very good football team.
Yeah. Okay, we go to the offensive side, and then we'll get into our favorite picks for this game. The offensive side for TCU, that is balanced attack. Like a lot of people think Max Duggan, Heisman Trophy candidate. They think this team airs it out all over the place. They're running the ball on over 54% of plays. Like they put the ball on the ground quite a bit with Condre Miller. And of course, Duggan's a great runner in his own right.
He showed that the drive he just ran down the field
yards.
himself. Yeah.
Miller's averaging 6.2 yards per carry, 17 touchdowns on the year, 1,300 yards on the ground. It's 3 guys. It's Duggan, it's Quentin Johnson, it's Condre Miller.
Yeah.
Like these guys this offense runs through these 3. Now, what can they do offensively to find success against a really good Michigan defense is where the question is for me, because it's been a good group all year, managed to score like 30-plus points week in and week out. This is a different animal. Like the Big 12 has been great defensively, maybe a bit of a down year compared to last year, but can they do this against what is a really good Michigan defense, especially some good talent in the secondary, ability to stop the run? Like how can they stay to this like what their scheme is week in and week out?
So it's kind of going to go against because I know I might spoil this for you. You said you like the under, but the way TCU wins this game is boom plays, like getting down pushing the ball down the field, having guys take the top off, and then you have the vertical threat of some of these guys, and then you're able to run the ball. Like if Michigan's able to stack the box against this team, stop the run early, and then just be able to sit back and be able to stop the pass as well, it's going to be really tough. Like yards per pass, 17th in the country, 8.4 yards per pass. Pretty good. They're only throwing for 260 yards per game. Like that's really not a lot for a team in the college football.
Yeah, they're so
playoff.
balanced. They're not. They have not gone. They haven't been asked much this season, other than the Oklahoma State game when they were down a bunch early, to like really get one dimensional and be like a solely pass first type of offense. They haven't had to do it. So.
One thing I like about what TCU's had to go through this whole season though is play from behind, play tough games.
They are comfortable in that scenario. They really are.
Which is something. I mean, Michigan's played a couple close games, but that's because I think they played pretty poorly. They haven't had to really fight and battle with someone. TCU's done it all season.
Yeah,
so
I guess I should take that back. They've actually been down by a couple scores quite a bit. If you look at Kansas State, Baylor, who was the other? I mentioned Oklahoma State. So they are tested in that department too.
So maybe once Michigan, if Michigan gets up a score or 2, they sit back a little bit, and then that's when TCU kind of puts it on them.
Yeah.
Maybe the most possible thing that could happen here.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. You got to be able to stretch this defense out, and you can't keep these guys from kind of just pinning their ears back and getting after the passer. They haven't been great. They're 90th in pressure rate allowed on the offensive line, 55th in stuff rate, which aren't great numbers. But Duggan's mobility has kept them from like being in situations where they're falling behind the sticks. Their sack rate is only 5.5% because he's able to get out of the pocket and make plays with his legs. So. I like what you're saying. They offensively got to be able to stretch this defense out, and then on the defensive side for them, just being able to trust their DBs in man-to-man coverage in one-on-one situations, and doing enough with the linebackers to stay disciplined and tackle well to be able to stop the run, and that can keep you close and give you the chance of late game to be able to make a play. And hey, run the fireman fucking drill to kick the game-winning field goal potentially.
Yeah, no, and again, turnovers, TCU on offense doesn't really turn the ball over a lot. Penalties, 4.8 penalties per game on offense. It's 24th in the country. They also give themselves a very good chance to win the game if they don't turn the ball over at all.
Yeah, 100%. Okay, picks. You mentioned it. I'll kind of start. I love the under, 58.5. You might think offensively like TCU with Sonny Dykes is like a fast-paced, explosive offense. they're not. They rank right around middle of the pack, or I believe even a little bit farther than that in terms of average depth of target in the pass game. They're 81st in pace of play. Like, they're relatively slow. Michigan's one of the slowest in the country, 123rd. If these two teams, which they've shown all year, want to put the ball on the ground, that's going to burn some clock in this game. You also have the early game nerves for a TCU team that hasn't been here quite yet. How does that impact the early parts of this game? I love the under 58.5. I know you're out with your buddies. It's New Year's Eve. The last thing they want to hear is you bet the under on this game. But let them sweat out all the points they need. I don't think they're going to come to them. So make a little money on the under and get a couple drinks. We're paid for the drinks.
Pay for the drinks, man. So I like Michigan in this game. 7.5 is the number right now. We're 17 days out from the game as we're recording this right now.
Yeah,
I would love to get this number at 6.5. If it's falling based on some line movement, or I gotta shop it to -120. I think you're gonna be fine making money at -6.5 instead of, hey, you have a push, get everything back at 7. So 7, 6.5. I still like them at 7.5, but I think we're just in a very good spot if you can take 6.5 or 7.
Yeah, it'll be really interesting, I think, on the line movement we see closer to kick. If we see this, I would say, usually I can say to someone like, oh, if you want this side, wait. If you want this side, just take it now. I honestly couldn't tell you because we're down 2 points. I can't see it going much lower.
And you said a lot, like a decent amount of the money's on Michigan as well. You said 70%.
Yeah, at least this was last week. And again, it's very early. Like, not a lot of people are getting down on this game quite yet.
Yeah.
So I think if it's hard to say which way. Like, this could be your best chance to bet Michigan, like the best number you can get. Like Abe said, you could buy it to 7 for -120, and you see what happens. So, but anyways,
exciting
Michigan,
times, man.
The under?
Best part of the year.
Yes, we love getting in on this game. We'll be in on Ohio State and Georgia as well, so go check that video out when it drops too. And again, if you guys are looking to bet on this game, BetMGM, you sign up. They're going to give you your first bet risk-free up to $1,000. So get in on that. That link is down below in the description. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.